everybody, it's Romania Black. And we're on episode 17 through 19 of Kuroko's basketball, and I'm very glad that I am behind that Takeo arc. We're past that arc! I had so many people on YouTube being like, I love the Takeo arc, and I was like, I'm glad it's over. That was painful. We were talking about it so much in the Discord, but episode 13 is great. Episode 13 is adorable. They're all chibis, they're cute. It's like the perfect little setup. And then episode 14, you're like, wait a minute. And then episode 15 and 16 are just solid pain and torture that these middle schoolers are being exploited by their administration. And then Kagami comes in there at the very end and is like, well, that was in the past, but now we're back to the present. So, that last set of episodes, I was fired up. I was emotional and fired up, and I was telling everybody in the Discord that I've calmed down since that episode set. And it's one of those things where when I get done watching an episode, a set like that, and I do the discussion right after the reaction, I am just very fired up and emotional. And then when I go back to edit, I was like, ooh, I need to go back and refine a few things, refine my points on a few things. So I will do that here in a second. But I do want to go through a few comments before we do that as we go into this, as we're going into the finals of the Winter Cup. It's the big game, right? First of all, though, I have been meaning to talk about episode 10 through 12's end cards, the last two episode sets, and I keep forgetting. I've had them on my desktop just sitting there being like, Romania, don't forget to talk about them. And what have I done the last 2 weeks? I forgot to talk about them. So that's what we're going to do right now, is talk about these end cards for episodes 10, 11, and 12. I think the reason that I keep forgetting to do them is that they're just... they're fine. They're not as good as the end cards we've gotten in the last couple weeks. But like episode 10, this one's probably my favorite of the three. And that is like Hyuga being such a dork with his like little samurai helmet on that he's made with like a motorcycle helmet and little cardboard box pieces. And it looks like something off of Voltron or a Sailor Moon boomerang. Like this one end card makes me instantly remember that, oh yeah, these are high schoolers. These are teenage boys. Like Hyuga is such a dork in this as they're playing like with the water guns and everything. And Teppei's like, yes, I love this for two reasons. One, because Hyuga's so dorky and it's really cute. And two, because Teppei, it's like the one time where Teppei looks a little bit dangerous. I'm like, ooh, all right, Teppei, teddy bear, am I right? I really like the second one too, though, where it's all of the eyebrows team of Kaijo. Now that I know that Wakamatsu has the same eyebrows as the coach, I'll never get over it. A secret conspiracy theory, right? But I just think it's so cute. It's like all them hanging out, just being bros. It reminds me of Zoolander, where they're going to the gas station and they're playing with the gas pumps. Just, being just stupid boys. I love it. And then the final one's really nice too, and that is Kisei, like, going after Kuroko, and Kagami's like, whoa, bitch! And then I like that Kasamatsu is clearly the one that's grabbing him from behind. So I like that. It's just really cute. I love the Kisei, Kuroko, and Kagami trio. And if you look, it's the primary colors. It's red, blue, and yellow. How can we beat that? How can we beat that? We can't. It's OT3, y'all. The OT3 of Kuroko's. The primary color trio. I'm all here for it. But yeah, I'm glad I can finally talk about those because it's been driving me nuts forgetting the last several weeks. Speaking of which, doing some comments from the last couple of episode sets. A special shout out to Truck over on Patreon, because apparently there's a bunch of light novels and Truck has found translations of them because they haven't been put into the English language for me to officially buy. So there's some really cool fan translations out there, and Truck compiled them all into a Google Doc and put them in the Discord. So it's like, that's really awesome, right? That was really freaking cool. So as I go through the manga, and I'll talk about the manga at the end of these comments, or throughout these comments, I am excited to get to go and read the light novels. And we will have a live stream eventually about Kuroko's basketball, and hopefully by the time we have the live stream, I can be able to talk about the light novels and have a video maybe about those. There's so much Kuroko's content, y'all. So much. But yeah, we found out in the Discord, Moth Green Applesauce commented on Patreon, but along with them and Bella, as well as Anime Annie, talking about the names and VAs for the new characters that were in the Teiko arc. Shirogane Kozo, Shiro meaning white. So obviously the coach is like the absence of colors, right? And Kuroko is the inclusion of all colors. Also though, Nijimura, I'm so glad y'all love Nijimura. Nijimura has my heart. And I would consider it a manga spoiler, but you know what? I'm going to let y'all have it. Somebody shared a picture of Nishimura. I'm assuming it's from a manga cover because it looked like it was from a manga cover. But he has an armband and it's the rainbows. He's the keeper of the Generation Miracles. I'm like, yes, Nishimura. I freaking love him. But his voice actor is the same one as Byakuya from Bleach and Mitsui from Slam Dunk. Of course he sounds like he's 38 because he was like probably in his late 20s when he was voicing a 14-year-old. Amazing. But I love that. I love Nijimura's voice actor. Freaking amazing. Love it. Ogiwara's VA is Yu Hayashi, who plays Tanaka in Haikyuu, so that's cool, as well as Omar in Vinland Saga, Tachihara in Bungo Stray Dogs, and Abraham Dawson from Banana Fish. What a roster, right? He plays the most innocent, sweet cinnamon bean in Kuroko's Basketball, and then in Banana Fish, he plays Scum. Like, just the range. I was absolutely enthralled by that. We talked about, Bella was talking about in their comment that Akashi, talking about Haizaki, I didn't talk about Akashi because I've asked people not to, but talked about how Haizaki's comment to Kuroko that the ones who quit were maybe better off than the one that stayed. After this last Teiko arc, yeah, it kind of is apparent that Haizaki was like, glad I got out of that trauma when I did. Am I right, guys? Like, that's just so wild. All the stuff that happened to them in middle school, and Haizaki's like, glad I pieced out of that, right? It all makes sense now. I think it's really, really cool. Arjo. Arjo was talking about, I've been trying to stay away from manga spoilers because I know that I'm going to read the manga eventually and talk about them. My plan is for the manga, because Arjo was bringing up the fact that apparently, and I don't want to know anymore, please don't tell me anymore, let me be surprised, but we're telling me that the Teiko arc has a lot more chapters than they were able to show in the anime. That's all I want to know. No more. No more manga spoilers. But I wanted to clarify that my thoughts were, after thinking about it, doing manga reactions kind of like what I'm doing with the Attack on Titan reactions, where I go through, read the manga with you all, talk about it, and if there's like a panel or some cool stuff that we've not seen, I can show a picture of it. But for copyright reasons, I'm not going to show like the full thing, right? But I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. And I found online where they have the 2-in-1 volumes, so they have like the 2-in-1 Kuroko volumes. I don't know how many of those I would do in a sitting because they're like 400 pages. You know, for each one. But we can have a lot of Kurokos. I'm not opposed to that. So yeah, we'll just wait and see what ends up happening with that. But I think I'm going to do some run through with the manga. And if we extend our time with Kuroko's Basketball, why not? Just why not? You know, I love this series so much and it's gone by so quickly. Why not extend our time with Kuroko's just a wee bit? I don't see a problem with that. But yeah, so I am going to look at Arjo. I am going to look at the manga, but they were like, you really need to look at the Teiko arc because it's a lot bigger. I am going to do that, so no worries there. No worries. The reaction to that might be really fun. Anime Annie talked about Murasaki Bara. We joked in the last episode set that he was kind of the trigger for the straw that broke Akashi's back. And so Anime Annie says that hopefully maybe Murasaki Bara regrets that decision, because during the game where Himuro is talking about Akashi's abilities, Murasaki Bara is kind of quiet and introspective about it. Like maybe he does regret being such a brat, perhaps. And it also makes sense now why Murasaki Bara did not play like Akashi told him to during Inter High. Makes a lot of sense. And so Shirogami's VA is not Gendo, but actually the same one as Nebuya from Rakuzan's team. So I guess that voice actor is just doing double duty and is playing both the old coach and Nebuya on the team. I like both those characters, so that's really fun. But he also plays Kurogiri from My Hero Academia, and I'm like, that's where that deep voice is from. I knew I heard his voice before, and I couldn't place it, but it was not only Nebuya, but it was also Kurogiri, so look at that. And then also I have on here that Mochida, which is Ogiwara's teammate, is played by the same voice actor as Reki from Skate the Infinity. It's like, look at that little guy. Absolutely amazing. Love it. And then finally, the broken plate analogy. I was having a lot of trouble with this analogy because I get what Akashi was saying with it, but the way that Akashi said it in the moment made it seem like it was such like a bitter and condescending thing, and that it was just like, well, the plate's broken. It can never be the way it was, but I guess I'll get some use out of it. Just the way he said it like was very, very much a turnoff. But Anime Annie says that there is a process called kintsugi, where you repair broken ceramics with lacquer and gold. And so the way that they described it is the finished product ends up more beautiful than what it was before, kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And so I liked this idea that Anime Annie pointed out, that the team was broken by the individualistic style of play that Akashi was pushing. But then Kuroko, through his own style of basketball and his answer to Akashi, has come and technically slowly fixed them all one by one and made them better than they were before. Maybe. I mean, Amine still needs some work, but he's got he had the most trauma. I feel like him and Momoy had the most visceral trauma or visible trauma alongside Kuroko in that Teiko set. Whew. But yeah, so we talked in the Discord a lot about He Who Shall Not Be Named, without talking about He Who Shall Not Be Named. And I lamented that I'm trying to give him a fair shake, but I'm not going to go away from my feelings about him. And I just ask that everybody let me experience things naturally with him. And maybe by the end of it, I will come out with a much more nuanced view. Because, yeah, we were talking about this in the Discord. These are middle school kids at the time. So the idea of the administration is the true villain of this story. The Teiko middle school administration is the true villain for exploiting children and traumatizing them and taking their impressionable minds and just completely warping them. It's bad. And I will give Akashi the benefit of saying that, yeah, he had a lot of pressure, as you all told me he would. He had a lot of pressure. He clearly has some stuff going on at home. But, you know, poor him being rich. And I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to get sassy. I'm going to rein it in. But he's got stuff going on at home. He has pressures. And admittedly, it may be hard given what all he was given. But my thing with Akashi at this point in the story, and all I will say is that we don't really get inside his head like we do with Aomine and the other characters. It's all just shown to us or told to us, but we don't actually get to see the inside. We don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff like we do with the other characters. So it becomes hard to empathize with a character unless you've seen the whole series and you know what I don't know. Then sure. But yeah, my whole thing is I'm not a person that lets excuses be. That's just like the teacher. I made this big long rant about it. I was like, yes. Where is it? I'm going to find it in the Discord. I made a little ranty thing about it. And people were like, this is the most teacher statement you've ever made. And I was like, I felt like I was giving a lecture, honestly. It felt very lecture-y because I am trying my hardest to give Akashi the benefit of the doubt. I really am. Yes. I said, look, y'all. I said in the reaction that Akashi has a lot of pressure on him. And that's mainly the administration's fault for not thinking of these middle school kids as such and exploiting them. And the coaches should have stepped up. I wholeheartedly agree on that. But that does not excuse Akashi from the following to me at this moment. 1, not fostering any sense of camaraderie with his teammates. 2, not communicating his grievances. If he has any, at this point, y'all are telling me he's stressed, which is kind of spoilery because how do I know unless it's revealed later, which takes away from the surprise of me knowing about his character. For all I know, he's totally fine with his choices because that's all we've seen of him so far. 3, encouraging behavior that is toxic instead of being a friend or a mentor, like we've seen other captains in middle school and high school be like, Tepe. 4, gaslighting. 5, gatekeeping information. 6, attempting to stab someone in the face with scissors. And then finally 7, encouraging mind games and cruel actions against other teams for no reason, aka Ogiwara. So yeah, I get the pressure thing. I get that the administration and the coaches, they messed up hard. But with that being said, I don't think that it is an excuse for Akashi to be like, well, all the X, Y, and Z is the reason why I'm a total dick. I'm like, no, that's not good enough. And I said my piece in the last reaction, but at this point, I can understand some of the reasons why Akashi has been the way that he has been, but it doesn't excuse his actions. Doesn't excuse him from that. And the whole thing with Ogiwara, I'm still really bitter about it. I'm like, there was no reason for that. None whatsoever. So yeah, all I ask is that, as I said repeatedly in the last reaction, just let me be with Akashi for now. I know it's hard. I know half the people on Discord are Akashi stans, so y'all are amazing for dealing with me and just humoring me as I go on this magical journey to learn more about our red-headed Edward Scissorhands. And hopefully I'll come out not hating him. So we'll just see how that goes, right? But with that being said, I want to thank everybody on Patreon, including Truck, who is an Akashi stan, and I'm like, you're amazing, because they're in my philanthropy tier, and they're super really helpful and lovely. Truck is the leader of our Kuroko's basketball cult on the Discord, which makes this all the crazier. But thank you all so, so much. These individuals go above and beyond to not only help me do reactions like these, but also to help me get the Kuroko manga that I'm going to be reacting and reviewing with you all. So that's exciting. I wouldn't be able to do that without you all. And I'm so, so grateful. Anime Annie provides song translations, as well as Truck, who provides audio drama translations, like puts playlists together for me. Y'all go above and beyond to help me look at these things, and I truly don't deserve it. So thank you so much. So to Dana, to Edgar, to Be Happy, to Truck, to Shimoyama, to Tyrone, to Nameless Monster, to Kenny, to Eric, to Sunspots, to Translucent Men, to Arjo, Anime Annie, as well as, I think that's everyone. All of my love. But yeah, I've talked way too much, so we need to get started with this sucker. 17 through 19, y'all. I'm really excited. I've been told I cannot watch the OP for episodes 17 and 18 for reasons. I can watch it during episode 19 though, so that's really exciting. So we'll just see how that goes, right? I'm a little curious. I'm curious about this OP that I am been told not to watch. So we'll just see how that looks, right? We'll just see how that goes. But in any case, let's not waste any more time. We are going to start episodes 17 through 19 of Kuroko's Basketball Season 3. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this, y'all. It's always darkest before the dawn, right? So a couple things have been established with this episodes. One is that this is gonna get real painful before it gets real better, maybe, possibly. And two, the idea that that this game is gonna last a long time. Like, 'cause we're not even to the halfway point, are we? We're not even at halftime, right? And it's already like 50 to 38 or something like that. Like, we're not even to halftime yet. So I'm trying to steer myself and be positive, because on the one hand, it looks like Seiren is like in really deep doo-doo against Rakuzen because they've started to pull away, right? But one, Kagami can go back in the zone. I fully believe that he can. If we set up with Kisei that Kisei can get back in the zone, Kagami can as well, right? I fully accept that that's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be like one of those 4 minutes left moments like with Kisei. I fully believe that's going to happen. Two, also, things always look super grim in this show. And Seiren, I have to tell myself, Seiren's been in deep places like this before. They pulled themselves out of it. We just got to have faith. Got to have faith. But honestly, I really like Rakuzen as a team. If I'm being honest, I really like Rakuzen as a team. They all are dynamic. I feel like they're all big personalities, kind of, which makes sense because Akashi brought them all together, very Generation of Miracle style. You have 3 uncrowned kings, and then you have the No Man. I should have realized it. I'm glad nobody spoiled me. I'm glad y'all didn't spoil, because y'all have been amazing, and I've been sitting there like, what's up with number 5? Something's up with him. And now we know that Chihiro, his whole deal is that he's supposedly the new and improved Kuroko, but I'm like, I have issues with that terminology. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. But the point being that he's like basically Akashi predicted that Kuroko would be a problem. I think that does speak volumes that Akashi thought Kuroko was going to be a threat. So he's like, we need to find our own version of Kuroko. And so we'll just get this guy. And what's so fascinating is that Chihiro is kind of exactly like what Akashi would have liked Kuroko to have become. Chihiro has an ego. He wants to make the shots for himself. He's not doing it for anybody but himself. He's basically like if Kuroko had been in the same egotistical mentality as the Generation of Miracles in middle school, that's Chihiro. Chihiro's not doing it for anybody but himself. And he's like, fine, if it makes me look good and gets us points, whatever. Like, he's not in it for the camaraderie, right? And he's a third year, so he's had 2 extra. When he was like, oh, he's like Kuroko, only better, I was like, bitch, of course he's had 2 extra years of practice. Of course he would be. That'd be like, it just obvious things, right? I'm like, Akashi, you're saying obvious things. But I should have seen it coming, and it just did not dawn on me. It was like a great reveal, just sneak up behind you like a bam. So we'll talk about episode 19, Miracles Don't Happen. Well, you were just in a whole generation of them, so you should know better, Akashi. I feel like something's got to give, right? I felt bad for Riko, because Riko's just sitting there like, I don't know what to do at this point, and she's just trying to hold it all together. I feel for Riko, I really do. I feel like Kuroko is going to have to become... Kuroko and Kagami are going to become the crutch for this. They have to be. The question is, Kuroko's been observing Chihiro, observing everything going on. So I'm like, okay, Kuroko, what are ye going to do? And that, we don't know yet. We don't know what he's going to do yet. So what can we do, right? We need to go through these episodes because there was a ton of shipping. I feel really bad because I thought Furihata was Kogane. I thought Furihata was Kogane for like a minute or two, and then was like, oh no, I done goofed. If I was going to confuse anybody with anybody, confusing Furihata with Kogane seems on brand. Seems on brand. Damn it. So yeah, we need to go back to episode 17, like the beginning, like the montage before the matchup. So Hyuga's barbershop. Junpei, Hyuga's dad, is a barber. That's great. Y'all, as much angstiness as was in these episodes, it still wasn't as angsty as last week. Nothing could be as angsty as the Teiko arc. So I'm like, yes, it's doom and gloom, and oh no, miracles don't happen, and oh, what's Seiren to do? But it's not as traumatic as last week, so we have that to look forward to. But there was so much shippable moments in this set of episodes. My shipper heart was like, so much to talk about. Hyuga's barbershop. That whole scene of him cutting Riko's hair. Girl, lock that down. He's nice. He's average. Not super smart, but he's not dumb. He has like nerdy, cute hobbies. He's not a bad looking guy, and he can cut your hair. Girl, haircuts are like $80 a piece. If you get a haircut in color, it's like $80. You got that for free? Lock that down. I loved that moment. And I'm like, Hyuga, what were you telling her you were going to do if you won? He was all blushy. I'm like, were you going to ask her to go on a date? What were you going to do? I want to see this come to fruition. I want to see Hyuga and Riko go on that date, y'all. But this show just had to tease us. Ugh. And then we have Teppei. I never shipped Teppei with Izuki, but I kind of did in this moment because Teppei's like hanging out with Izuki and his like genetically perfect family. And they're all like, he's having second breakfast. He's like a damn hobbit. He went and had breakfast with his grandparents, probably like at 5 a.m. because they're old people and they get up super early. And now he's going to have second breakfast with Izuki and the family. It's great. We have a cheetah with his girlfriend. His girlfriend seems so nice. He was like, I'm probably just going to sit at the bench. She was like, well, I don't know anything about basketball, but I'm sure your presence is really supportive and helpful. I'm like, dude, lock this down too. She seems great. She's totally fine with you hanging out with your guys and playing basketball. Like, get with that. Stay with that. Great. And then, Kogane with his sister. Now, I felt like, at first, I think one of the reasons I confused Kogane and Furihata was because I think that Kogane is going to have a role in this game. They have conveniently in these episodes, we've sent every first year in. Now Kugane is the second year, but we've sent all the first years in, right? To face Akashi of all people. Oh my god. And then, but Kugane hasn't gone in yet. And I feel like that whole moment at the very beginning of him with his sister and talking about sitting the bench is gonna come back into play. I feel like they're setting it up that Kugane is going to have a role in this. I could be wrong. He may not. But I feel like Kugane has always been like the jack of all trades, master of none. And Akashi has been a self-declared master of everything. So I feel like it would be really cool to have Kugane versus Akashi to see what ends up happening. And I feel like they're running through the others so that it will not seem like a big deal when Kugane eventually does go in. But then I think it's going to go back to this moment where he's telling his sister, like, when I played tennis. And what? Kugane playing tennis. I feel like that's going to come into play because you have to have a certain set of skills to play tennis. If you've watched Death Note and seen Light and L playing tennis, it's not an easy sport. Even if you're a benched player, it's still pretty actively involved. I really would love if Kugane, because we've been putting in first years one after the other, and just to stall for time while Rico tries to think of something. And what I would love is for Kugane to go in, and then we think that it's just going to be another run-of-the-mill, like, oh, another substitute player comes in, and Kugane's like, no. And he applies something from tennis on the court. I think that'd be cool, like some footwork or something. And then I would love the idea of it because it could symbolically be like you have this jack of all trades. Like Kugane is the lay person. Furihata and Kugane are like the lay people, like the average Joes. And I would love to see Kugane, who is self-proclaimed as not being good at anything, go up against Akashi, who thinks he's good at everything, and for him to like get Akashi off his game. That would be a dream. It would be a dream. Because I'm not gonna lie, Akashi is still an asshole. He's just so he's so pretentious. And I'm not a pretentious person. I don't like pretentious people. I'm often like roll my eyes at them. And so whenever Akashi is just like rambling on about being amazing, I'm just like, yes, you've told us this like 5 times. I'm glad that you remember. But I want Kugane to have his moment. And I feel like this series is setting up for that, but we just haven't seen it yet. But it'll be interesting. And then oh my god, like Matobe with his family. I joked in the reaction that Matobe is very much that sibling who's the elder sibling. I have a family friend and they have like 7 children. And their eldest daughter, I swear, she's like this. She's the epitome of the eldest child. She's super mature, super respectable, super like on the ball, organized. But she never gets a word in edgewise because her 6 younger siblings are like, meh, 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 like all the time. And she's just like, She's like Matobe, right? She's super responsible, super reliable, but she just does not get a word in edgewise. And I'm like, girl, Matobe can relate. But I just love him. I love how his family make that little banner for him with like Rin knee. Super cute. And then thank God, Homura and Taiga made up. I am fine with that makeup. I am fine with it being a minute long. We just needed to see them get together and Kagami being like, hey, can we be brothers and rivals? And Homura's like way ahead of you, puts the necklace back on. He's like, yeah, let's do it, bro. I'm just like, I'm glad that got settled. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad that the show didn't forget about it. I'm glad we got that moment. That's all we needed. We just need that one little moment, sprinkle it on top. Perfect. It works out great. And then, yeah, number 2, going to be with Alex. Of course, I like that Kuroko is willing to leave his dog with his boyfriend's pseudo-mother, pseudo-sister. And then what was really interesting in the end of this little montage at the beginning of episode 17 is that Almine just walking with his team to the game, like not being forced in a bag, not being drugged. I feel like the series has done a really cool job of starting out with Almine not even wanting to go. And then as the series has progressed, he's slowly gone from not wanting to go at all and not going at all to being drugged there to wanting to go on his own. I'm like, that is character growth, and I'm here for it. And then Murasaki Bara, he just shows up too, you know? And I think it's so funny that the first 2 Generation Miracle players we see at the finals game are the 2 that were the first to want to quit coming to practices and quit getting involved. I love that parallel. That's such a cool thing, right? Such a cool thing. And then, oddly enough, Imayoshi has a lot of fun in these episodes. I don't mind Imayoshi. I think for me, Imayoshi and Hanamiya, I have a lot of fun with their characters because Hanamiya is garbage. He is like in Heaven Official's Blessing. He's the Chi-Rong of Kuroko's basketball. Hanamiya is the Chi-Rong. He's vulgar. He's garbage. He's a trash king. You just want to toss him away. But there's just something kind of fun about him in like a greasy way. He's like that greasy piece of pizza that you're like, it's free food. I don't want to throw it away. I'm just like, I guess I'll just dab it with a napkin a few times and maybe it'll be serviceable. You can't get rid of him. He's just enjoyable enough because he's so loathsome that it's just kind of fun. And Imayoshi is so Imayoshi's so hammy sometimes in how kind of like pseudo-villainous he can seem that I like characters like Hanami and Imayoshi because they're not pretentious. They don't come across like actively flaunting themselves. Like Hanami is an ass and he's trash, but he stays in the shadows, right? Hanami isn't out there like in front of everyone with his like his chest puffed out being like, look at me. Like he's not like that at all. And so I appreciate that. And Imayoshi's kind of the same way. We'll talk about them, but they're just having a lot of fun. Imayoshi actually kind of defends Hanamiya too, which I'm like, shippable moment where they were like, oh, the uncrowned kings, are they as strong as Hanamiya? And Imiyoshi's like, who knows? And I'm like, you're such a ship. Such a ship. But yeah, so Shotoku basically, as many people predicted, they win the match. It was like 90-something to 50-something. But Kisei sat the bench. I mean, what did you expect was going to happen if that was the case? But I really like Midorima coming up to Kisei at the end, being like, hey, whenever you get back to full strength, let's play, like, for real. And Kisei's like, my team was playing for real. What are you talking about? But yes. I love that. It was great. And then Hyuga making note as Rakuzan warms up that they have perfected the essentials. They have perfected all of the basics. And that's a very dangerous thing. If you've perfected the essentials and the basics, you're probably going to be pretty strong. Just saying. Mabuchi or Leo. Oh my God. Look. My end game pairing is for sure Hyuga and Riko. End game. Want them to get married. Want him to become part of the Yakuza family with Kagetora. Like all of that. And you have like the ex-couples that like, and Teppei's like that. Teppei's like that third wheel that could maybe swing with them and be a threesome and they'd both be okay with it. We have that ship, right? But I'm not gonna lie, Mabuchi and Hyuga, the moment that Mabuchi was like, country boys aren't my type, I was like, ah! I was like, what? Kagami, hide! He's after the city boys! But then as the episode, it should have been foreshadowing because by the time we get to this last episode, Mabuchi's like, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. I was like, oh no. Mabuchi's automatically already like a 90s BL stereotype. Like he's one half of the couple. Hyuga, you are the other half of the BL couple. Get away. You're going to get targeted. I was like, oh, and they have history. I think something that's so cool about Rakuzen is that they have history with the players. Like Teppei and Nabuya have history. And then Mabuchi and Hyuga have history. And it's on two different levels. And then you have Hiyama, who I like Hiyama a lot, our cat boy. He's like a really likable character. I'm like, you're freaking cool. And then you have Chihiro, who's kind of a bitch, but in like an interesting way. And I'm like, what? And then we'll talk about him and Akashi. We'll talk about them. We get later on. But yeah, it's just kind of cool. But country boys aren't my type. What? And Hiyama's on Kagami. Should have seen that coming the moment he jumped over him like way back in the episode. It was like, yep, that was going to happen. And then Nabuya on Teppei, as we find out. Akashi on Izuki was really interesting. They didn't do much with that in this game, in this set of episodes. So I'm curious if we'll get more with that in the future. And then Mayuzumi on Kuroko should have been a clue. I'm amazed that I didn't realize that he was the Kuroko of this. They went out of their way to try and hide him. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I hadn't noticed how hard the show was trying to not let us notice number 5, then the whole Kuroko reveal that he's like Kuroko 2.0 or the OG Kuroko would have been more noticeable. But it was like, oh, that's why you're trying to hide it. Oh, I see how it is. I see how it is. But yeah, so Akashi says, do you have your answer? And Kuroko's like, yes, I'm going to show you our basketball, like how our team does it, because I'm with a team. That's my whole philosophy, is team play. And Akashi answers, I will answer the challenge. Like, Akashi's answer is very much a individualized, like, oh, well, cool, good for you. I'm going to challenge you. It's a nice little side in there. But then Kuroko takes the wristband not only from Ogiwara, but also from the one of all the first years and second years that are on the bench. I really want Ogiwara to be at that game. That would be amazing if Mochida got him to come and they were watching the game. I was trying in episode 17 to see if I noticed them in the crowd, and I didn't. But it would be really cool if they ended up coming to watch the game. That would be amazing. I would love that. And so Murray Sakibara, I love that he kind of looks kind of happy when he sees Himuro. There's like a little shot and he kind of looks happy to see Himuro. That was really sweet. That was cool. Sakurai! Sakurai's reactions to Hyuga are absolutely wonderful in this. I was like, man, Sakurai having a little crush on Hyuga. What? Everybody's crushing on Hyuga. Kagetora shows up looking like a damn Yakuza. He had to kill 3 guys and send him with cement blocks before getting here. And he like looks over to Hyuga like, heard you cut my daughter's hair. I guess you can stay. Like, just, oh my god. Okay, so they never talk about this in the episode set at all, but I'm pretty sure the coach for Rakuzan's name is Shirogane Ije, which is basically, didn't we just say, yeah, that Shirogane Kozo was Teiko's coach? So if for some reason the Shirogane coaching Rakuzan is like the brother of the coach of Teiko, which at this point I'm like pretty sure, then it would not surprise me if the only... Here's the thing, what's going to be interesting is, did Akashi have a choice to go to Rakuzen, or did his family send him there because Shirogane was the coach? Or did Akashi choose to go there because Shirogane was the coach? That's going to be the fascinating thing. Like, okay, what are we going to do with this? Like, did Akashi have an active choice in going to Rakuzen, or was it part of the plan, right? Was it part of the plan? We were talking about this in the Discord and I was saying that it seems like Akashi, in some regards, is constantly in this flow of trying to figure out it. He's constantly, it almost seems like Akashi is kind of led along like what he's supposed to do. Like, he doesn't have much choice for himself. So he's just kind of following in the motions that have been set in front of him. But I'm kind of not entirely with that, because even if that is the case, Akashi's whole thing is that he's a strategist. So he makes the decisions, and the coach for Rakuzen seems to accept those decisions and is like, okay, Akashi, you want to do it that way? Then we'll do it that way. Like, they seem pretty on board with it. So I feel like the show, on one hand, tries to make it seem like Akashi doesn't have as much choice, but then we, the audience, see that Akashi has lots of choices. And he's in high school. He's making choices. He's a young adult. It's fine. But I don't want to give him a free pass. I don't know. I had this like weird analogy that, because you have some people saying that Akashi, like, it's the pressures from his home and his environment that make him act the way that he does. And I'm like, that is true. And I understand that. But at some point, you do make decisions for yourself. And those decisions do have consequences. And you can't just blame your environment for those decisions. It'd be like if Hanamiya was raised by a bunch of feral ditch possums, and they only taught him to be violent against others. And then the show was like, well, that's why he was violent against Teppei, because of the environment he was raised in. Would we as the audience accept that? Would we as the audience be like, oh, Hanamiya was raised by ditch possums that taught him to hit people all the time. That's why he wanted to beat up Teppei. Well, we'll give him a pass. No, we wouldn't be like that. No, we would be like, no, Hanamiya is still trash. He shouldn't have hit Teppei. He shouldn't have been violent like that in the court. No. Like, I feel like there's some that want to give Akashi a free pass and based on the environment, but I'm like, you wouldn't give that free pass to other characters in this show, so I don't buy it. But I just wanted to do that analogy because I had a thought about doing an image on Photoshop of Hanamiya being raised by possums. And it just kind of evolved from there. So sorry for that detour. But yeah. And so we had Mayuzumi, who's a third year. And I put in my notes, I kid you not, I put in my notes, third year, looks like Kuroko. In my notes for episode 17. I kid you not. So even back then I was like, ooh, it didn't click that he was their version of that. I was like, that's so interesting. And so anyway, we go back to the coach, possibly being related to the coach from Teiko, and then Miyazumi being the third year. And so Kagami takes the lead and says he wants to jump in to get the ball. Kagami is like all about it. Kagami is like wanting to start this game off right. I like that Kagami is in a good headspace so far in this game. Now, where that goes to from here, I don't know, because if the gap gets wider, what do we do with this? But I like that Kagami, seemingly right now, is in a good headspace. He's in a good headspace, and he manages to get to Akashi. And what I like about this is I was really proud of Kagami, because he gets that point where he's about to do like the Meteor Jam against Akashi for the first time. And he says, he's like, I was thinking about it ever since Kuroko told me the story. What would I have done in that situation? What would I have done? And we brought this up also in the Discord, that the situation was kind of bad. When I said earlier in the start of the video that I wanted to refine my thoughts on Akashi, aside from the Hanamiya reference, one thing was that there is a moment, the moment where Murasaki Bara snaps, that is a very difficult position for Akashi to be in. And I feel like Kagami's kind of going over, like, what would I have done in that situation? Like, it was his fault, but there was a reason behind it. Like, hitting him may not have changed anything. You know? I like these walking through the motions because, yeah, with Akashi, in the past, like the moment that Murasaki Bara makes him snap, yeah, in that moment, the way of handling Murasaki Bara is that he had to be shut down somehow. That part I'm totally with. It's just the lead up to get to there. Sure, there were probably reasons behind it, but like there could have been so many things done different that it does irk me a little bit. But I like that Kagami's pretty inspiring in that he's trying to think it through and think, okay, what would I have done? What would I have changed? What could have been done instead? And he just decides he's like, I want to win with my friends, so I'm just going to jump. I'm just going to do what I can do. And I respect Kagami so much for that. And then he gets in the zone. Almine at first looks like he's really excited by that. He's like, I taught him the trigger is his friendship. And I'm like, friendship is magic. Of course it would be. Of course it would be. Of course it would be. I like that so far to get into the zone, it has been with Almine, it's meeting someone that is as good as him, like finding his dream. With Murasaki Bara, it's realizing your love of basketball. And with Kagami, it's like connecting with his friends. So I'm like, I feel like I don't know what Midorima's thing to get in the zone would be. I don't know what Midorima's would be. Kisei seems to be like the drive to win with his copy. I feel like Akashi is going to get in the zone when he's like close to losing. And that threat is going to bring him into the zone and it's going to be utterly terrifying. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. I don't know. I don't even know like how we would get to that point because they seem to be pretty far ahead. So what are we going to do about that? But Almine did seem a bit proud that he was in the zone. And Kagami gets on a roll going into episode 18. They take Kuroko out and put Matobe in. I like that Kuroko, for all the teasing that he does, he's not very good at taking it himself. Like when he gets subbed out, he's like, but I wanted to give all I had to give. It's like Kuroko, like he can walk the walk, but he can talk the talk, but sometimes he has trouble walking the walk, right? Matobe in this episode set was amazing. I was like, dude, yes. Like he was holding his own. Kagami's on a roll. Imayoshi's just happy with all the drama. He can't help it. And then Almine starts to look concerned. He's like, I feel like he's going to lose and get out of the zone too much. And honestly, I feel like Almine was more concerned with Kagami's mental state. Like when he gets out of the zone, is he going to get out in a good place or is it going to be like a struggle in a bad situation? And so then, like, Akashi's saying he let Kagami by to throw him off so he missed the shot. I'm like, okay, sure thing. And then Hanamiya and Imayoshi just breaking it down. I never thought in this entire series, I would expect Hanamiya and Imayoshi, of all people, to be giving commentary. But it's kind of fascinating because they're nowhere near each other giving similar commentary. I'm like, the shipping fodder is just there, right? But it's fun. And then they say Akashi's power isn't that he has the Emperor Eye, it's that he knows how to use it. It's not the size, it's how you use it. Of course, right? Mm-hmm. And then Almine knows that Kagami's going to run out of steam, but he hopes that he's not going to be broken mentally, which he doesn't end up being that way. I'm glad they didn't give us some bullshit melodrama where Kagami's zone fails and he's like thrown into a spiral. Too early for that, right? And then he starts to get worked up, and that's when Matobe steps in to help cool him off. I loved that when he was like, hey, and then Kogane had to like translate. He's like, what he's saying is, and Kagami's like, I get it. Right? I feel like Kagami can understand Matobe. I think we've established this in some previous episodes. Right? So good. But yeah, he gets out of the zone. Everything seems like it's okay, though. Alex keeping number 2, like, in her bosom warm. I'm like, girl, you're fooling nobody sneaking this dog in. What the hell? And then everyone is noticing Kuroko. And I honestly had never even thought of that being a thing. That never once crossed my mind. That Kuroko, by getting better at shooting and being noticed, it would diminish his ability as a shadow. But, that's just... The one thing that's kind of sad about that is because Akashi gives Kuroko such a hard time that he's disappointed in him, that he passed up, like, the one thing that made him a good player, he gave that up to, like, I don't know, become his own person. And now he's like, you're no better than an average player. I'm like, I feel like that's kind of like that's going to be the thesis Kuroko kind of zones in on. I feel like going into these next sets of episodes is the fact that Kuroko's like, yeah, I know that I'm average, but I'm myself and I'm happy and I wanted to learn these things. That's the kind of thing, because the way that Akashi makes it sound, he's like, I taught you to do these passes. I groomed you into this player that you were, and you've wasted all the things that I gave you. And on the one hand, yeah, it kind of sucks that Kuroko, he had something really good for him, and he kind of spread himself too thin with learning all these other things and standing out and getting noticed. But on the other hand, I'm like, I'm glad Kuroko's being noticed, because it's kind of like when he was just on Teiko, being used for his powers, he wasn't getting noticed and he was getting no credit, and it was just like he was just a tool to help make the other Generation of Miracles players stand out, and he was getting nothing. It was like nothing was for himself, it was all for everyone else. And here Kuroko gets to have some agency and do something for himself that he enjoys and likes, and yeah, maybe it does spread him too thin, but you know what, he's happy. Or he was, and to diminish that, it makes it seem like Akashi was just using Kuroko to help benefit himself and the others, and didn't care about what Kuroko's self-health, mental health was like, right? I don't know. And maybe to play Edward Scissorhands' advocate, maybe Akashi is disappointed because he knew Kuroko had something that he was really good at. And he's like, oh, you're squandering something that's a talent. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe that's the case. But there's 2 ways you can read that. You can either read it as he's sad that Kuroko was squandering this potential, or you could look at it as this one thing that, yeah, it made Kuroko strong, but completely voided his self-identity and agency, which is better, right? And I feel like Kuroko was going to have to find a way to tell Akashi that, like, I'm fine being average. I don't have to be a monster. It's okay. As long as I'm helping my team, it's fine. We'll see how that ends up going, right? And so Hanamiya's banter, or Hayama's banter with Kagami is cute. I was like, when did Hanamiya talk with Kagami? Looking at my notes. But yeah, I really like Hayama. And here's the thing, I like Rakuzen a lot. Rakuzen, their players all have big personalities, but they're fun. They're fun. Hayama is fun. Catboy is cool. Mabuchi is like a diva, but he's like kind of catty and sassy, and I like it. Nabuya is like a big old oaf, but he's cool. Like, with the exception of Akashi and kind of Chihiro, none of them are pretentious. We'll talk about Chihiro. But yeah, it's really cute. And honestly, I wrote down my notes here that Hayama is like a love child between Kagami and Kisei. Right? He's kind of like if Kagami and Kisei had a love child, it's Hayama. For some reason, when he does the lightning dribble, it makes me think of Kisei. I don't know if it's the fact that it's yellow lightning and maybe the color scheme is doing it, but it's what I imagine that Kisei would have a power like. And I don't know, there's just something that, like they said in the episode, it's kind of like this feral energy like Kagami, but at the same time, it's like kind of, I don't know, not refined, but he just strikes me as having an attitude kind of like Kisei, and I really like it. So Akashi calls Kuroko worthless, which is really sad. And I'm like, quit beating him up. And Hanami, here's how you know. When Akashi was just like, you're worthless now. You're less than an average player. And Hanami is like, is he going to get subbed out? I was like, same energy, right? I was like, Hanami being a trash king. And then Riko saying, we're going to get some play footage. We're going to have you observe. And we're going to figure something out. But I feel bad for Riko because it seems like she doesn't know what to do. She's like, how do we beat this? I don't know how we're going to get past this strategy. And the first quarter was promising. It was 21-21. And then it kind of all goes downhill from there. And they're like trying to hold their own. I liked Kagami's teasing and encouraging Kuroko. Kuroko can't take it. It's so funny because every time like Kagami has said something, like Kuroko and the other teammates have been like, oh, that's kind of lame. And Kagami's like, what do you mean it's lame? And here Kagami tries to like be teasing to Kuroko and Kuroko's like, I really wish you'd sugarcoat it more. I'm like, you're such a diva. I love it. It was so funny. Kuroko can't take it. And then at the end of episode 18, Izuki's like, well, they're not all monsters. And I'm like, stop talking. He's like, please stop saying things. Stop jinxing this. And then they're like, oh, especially that Chihiro guy. And then as Izuki is like, well, you know, they seem like a pretty nice group of people. They're not all monsters. Akashi's like, let's destroy them. I'm like, it's not enough that they beat. And that's another thing, too. I think that's another thing that, like, that is another thing that I kind of hold against Akashi is that he's like, let's destroy them. I'm like, dude, you know, when the team I coach, when we go to competitions, we don't say, let's destroy the other team and rip their throats out. We're like, no, let's play to win. But we came here to win and kick butt, but we're not going to massacre these people and crush their spirits, right? Akashi seems to have no problem in doing so. So, what have you. And then Chihiro, the third year. I was so like, he calls Kuroko the older model and Chihiro the new model, but I'm like, Chihiro's 2 years older. How does that make sense? I'm like, wait, what? Doesn't make sense. Calling Kuroko the older model. I'm like, I guess since you found him first, but Kuroko's younger, so does that really make him the older model? Does it? So yeah, so then we have this episode, and Chihiro can use misdirection. And the thing about it is Chihiro is very much, he's basically what Kuroko could have been on Teiko if he had had the ego and the drive that, like, what Akashi wanted. He's basically Chihiro. But I'll be honest, did I just ship Chihiro and Akashi? Kind of, especially with this light novel scene, because yeah, he goes up there on the rooftop, and again, the creepy thing is that we talk about in the past, the mangaka thought about making them twin brothers. You have Kuroko being like Domo, and then you have Akashi on the rooftop to Chihiro being like Domo. I was like, it's very eerily similar, right? And Chihiro's like, you're acting awfully familiar when we don't know you. He's kind of a bitch. Chihiro's kind of a bitch. But he's so like quiet about it that you're like, he's kind of stuck up. You're right up Akashi's alley. He's like, we were teammates until the other day. And he has like these soulless eyes and the gray hair. He's like the opposite of Nijimura. You have like Nijimura was like first crush. And then Akashi's like, I've moved on to someone completely different. Chihiro's kind of a bitch, but I kind of like him. He's like, most people have a hard time remembering me. And Akashi's like, well, that's because I know someone just like you, and I want to use you in the same way that I tried to use him. And he's like, really? And he's like, what are you reading? I actually like this part with the light novel. He says it's a light novel. Akashi doesn't know what a light novel is, because I'm sure Akashi has never been able to read anything for fun. So I will give Akashi this. The scene on the rooftop is probably, honestly, the scene on the rooftop may be my favorite scene of him so far in this, because it's like it's a moment of vulnerability where Akashi doesn't know what a light novel is. So he's like, what is this? He's like, you don't know what they are? And he says, are they interesting? I like that he can't say no. He can't admit that he doesn't know something, but instead he says, I don't know. Are they interesting? And he says they're easier to read compared to normal novels. They're a little fluffier, right? And to drive home the fact they're fluffier, there's a magical girl in the front with fluffy pancakes, right? They're easier to read compared to normal. Some people don't like them, but if you do like them, they're interesting. And he kind of laughs about it. And kind of like gets a little bemused about it. And I like that immediately Chihiro gets on the defensive. He's like, hey, don't make fun of me if you don't like it. You think it's stupid because of the cover, don't you? Because I like magical girls. And he's like, no, I just thought you're very much like the Phantom Sixth Man. And he's like, and he knows about it from Teiko. He's like, it's not just a rumor. He's like, that's what I came up here to discuss. Mayuzumi Chihiro, I want you to become the new Phantom Sixth Man. And then Chihiro says, no. He says, I love myself. Specializing in passing sounds boring. I'm not that desperate to play. There's no point in playing if I don't feel good about it. And at that moment, that's when Akashi knew he found his man, because Chihiro fits the stereotype. He fits the mold of all the other Generation of Miracle players. He fits the mold perfectly. He's like, you love yourself. You only want to play if it makes you feel good. And you really aren't that desperate to make friends or play basketball for fun. It's like he just checks off all of Akashi's like toxic traits that will make you a great Generation of Miracles player. And there's Chihiro. So at that moment, he's just like, you're exactly what I'm looking for. You're what Kuroko couldn't be. And he's like, I like you even more now. So it's like a kind of like a toxic ship, Chihiro and Akashi, but whatever. But when he's like, I love that Chihiro said no, and Akashi's like, so you're going to do it, right? Just like, but he just told you. Like, nope, nothing. And then, yeah, and then, of course, they're all like, nice pass, good job, Chihiro. And he's like, I'm not doing it for you. I'm just like, Chihiro is exactly what Akashi was wanting Kuroko to be, like just a stuck-up individualistic player who wasn't doing it for anyone but themselves. I'm like, oh my God. Just, what do we do? He's like, I feel good when my past six succeed. Yeah, he's exactly what Akashi wanted. It's insane how much he is exactly what he wanted Kuroko to become. Mm-hmm. And even kind of, there's a couple shots where he looks a lot like Kuroko. But I love that Matobe isn't giving up. I love that. I love that Matobe isn't giving up, even if things don't look good, and Chihiro's a good shooter and everything. And he says, I'm nothing like you. And then, oh, Kuroko's just so pissed. I love that look from Kuroko where he's just staring at him like, bitch, please. Like, I'm OG, what we doing? Okay, when they sent in Furihata, in my defense, I'll take a picture. I really thought that Furihata was Kugane. And this is because of the hair. I should have looked for the mouths, because the mouths are different, but I was having a moment. And this is why y'all ship Akashi and Furihata. Well, no, I know why you ship him with Furihata, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we talk about the end cards. But yeah, him going in there, and I like the Sakurai's like, why are they doing this? And Amine's like, what the hell? A chihuahua standing before a lion. I know why you all ship them now. No, a chihuahua before a lion. God, I wanted him to do something so bad. I wanted Furihata to get past Akashi so badly, right? I really wanted it. But then there's a moment where he just like goes around him. He just like falls. Oh my God. And Akashi's like, he's so weak. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, yeah, And God, I love it. I love the moment where he just falls down. God, it's great. It's wonderful. He's scared. He can't even look at us. And Teppei's like, oh, he'll be fine. It'll be okay. And then he tries. I give Furihata credit. Furihata like dives right in. Like he does not show fear. He dives right in against Akashi, and it's actually really, really good. And Himuro's like, wow, he's actually challenging him. That's crazy. But Furihata, he tries his best to make it work, and it just doesn't match up, right? And poor Furihata, he just gets exhausted right off the bat and knocks him down, and that's it. Oh. But the thing about it is when he knocks him down and he goes to do it, and Furihata, he falls, and then he goes to shoot. But there was a moment, I swear there was a moment where Furihata was like, and because Aomine is like, no matter how hard he tries, he's still a chihuahua. He can't beat a lion. But there's that but, right? So something's there. Something's there. Aomine's noticing something. But of course, we're not going to notice it as a team. And poor Furihata, he just is so exhausted, right? He can barely move. Bless him. And so he's like just facing all that pressure, right? Like how much pressure is it? So something's there. Aomine is pointing something out that is likely going to come up later and be a thing, right? That if they're trying to like whittle out how to get past Akashi, that's interesting. Okay. So then they bring in the other players, right? And poor Furihata, he says he wanted to be stronger alongside them. And Kuroko sitting next to him, like that's so sweet. Like, and Kuroko's like, yeah, I know how it feels, man, because I'm kind of on the bench without any knowledge of how we're going to fix this situation. Bless him. And so they try really hard, but they just keep going through the first years. Then we have the whole thing with Hyuga and Mabuchi. Like Nabuya and Teppei having a moment, like that part was cool, like finding out in the Nabuya. And it's kind of like the opposite scenario. You have Nabuya who faced Teppei in middle school, and they're both uncrowned kings. And Nabuya was kind of like inspired by Teppei. And it's sort of the polar opposite of Hanamiya. Like, whereas Hanamiya hates Teppei and can't stand them. I like when Teppei came out in the starting lineup. Both Murasaki Bar and Hanamiya were like, ugh. Like, just so fun, right? But unlike Hanamiya, who had this animosity towards Teppei and, like, hated him, Nabuya kind of respected Teppei and, like, wanted to be better than him. So he, like, bulked himself up so he could get stronger. Like, that's kind of cool. I like that. And then you have the opposite situation where Hyuga respected the form that Mabuchi has and was captivated by it and has framed a lot of his shooting style based on Mabuchi. So it's cool to see these connections. But if you had told me Mabuchi and Hyuga had history, I would have been like, what? When did that happen? And then he has the 3 shots. He has the heaven shot, the earth shot, and the hell shot or the void shot. I love it, right? Just that form and everything. And he's like, I'm falling in love again. I'm like, damn it! Rico and you are my OTP, but if you're getting shipped with Mabuchi, I kind of am all for it. So I'm like, damn it! Who knew Hyuga would be one of the most shippable characters in this damn series? What? And I like Hyuga has this whole thing where he's like, he's not my role model anymore. I need to get past him. Right? And Nabuya's like, man, his form looks like yours. And he's like, well, I mean, they look similar, but he's made it his own. Not bad. See, I like that. Again, what makes Rakuzen, with the exception of Akashi, what makes Rakuzen so endearing is that they acknowledge each other on the court. Like, Nabuya's like, I know you're a tough opponent, Teppei. I respect you. I'm going to beat you because I'm getting better. Totally cool with that. Mabuchi is like, oh, he made the form his own. Not bad. All right, but I'm still going to beat you. I'm like, I respect that. Hiyama's like, oh, you're fun, Kagami, but I'm going to beat you. Let's have fun. Respect that. Like, any player that, like, can be rivals with each other but have that level of respect, I'm all about it. And my only beef with Akashi at this point is that he does not respect other people. He's like, I'm better than you. And I'm like, give some people their due. And the only person he's really gave their due in this entire match has been Kuroko back in the match against Kaijo. Akashi was giving him credit, but that's like been the only time. Now, Almine thinks that something's up with Furihata facing Akashi, and the other team has made note that Kagami is probably the only one that can go up against Akashi. Like, there's stuff is being set up with those two things, right? I'm fully convinced. But we just got to see how it's going to play out. But yeah. And then Hanamiya giving... And I know I like that Hanamiya knows Mabuchi. That's kind of cool. Mabuchi, the Demon Leo, has 3 kinds of shots. He looks so beautiful there, right? He looks so pretty. I love that shot of him. I want to get like a good photo of him. Yep. And they're like, Hyuga, stop moving. I wanted them to explain the mechanics of the void shot, but they did not yet, which is very sad. I hope they explain it in the future. Or Hyuga finds a way to get around it, right? I hope so. But anyway, he ends up fouling him. He is able to make a 4-point shot. Izuki's worried. And Teppei steps up, but he keeps getting screened out by Nabuya. We get there past and all that. The gap is widening because we have like 2 minutes left. The gap will slowly widen. We have 3 minutes left of the second quarter, and it's 50-35, which is not good, right? And then, of course, Chihiro, disappearing is my job, but don't forget I exist. Yeah, he's just like admitting he's the souped up version of Kuroko. And then there's Akashi to worry about as well. Like, I like that Imiyoshi points out that, like, the big thing is that Rakuzen has 3rd years, they have a lot of 2nd years, and then they have Akashi the 1st year. So they're a pretty stacked team of players with lots of experience. Whereas, yeah, you've got Hyuga and Teppei, but a lot of your key players are rookies, so they don't have the experience that the others do. So it is a bit of an unfair balance there in terms of that. So I like that Imiyoshi kind of points it out and makes note of it. And then that visual, God, I want to get a picture of that. That visual of Izuki next to Akashi is such a good visual. With him just like looking super hard there. It just, I want to get a shot of it. But yeah, and the whole time they're like basically showing like, what do we do as each little vital point on the man gets X'd out, right? And they keep sending in, I really liked when Wakamatsu was yelling, being like, why isn't Seiren doing anything? And Imiyoshi's like, don't yell. Like, his face is really cute there. I liked Imiyoshi's little cute face, like, oh, please don't yell at me, sir. As Wakamatsu's like, what are they not doing? And it's poor. And again, we get Kogane noticing Riko, poor girl. She doesn't know what to do. And Kogane is like watching her. So I feel like maybe in the next episode set, Kogane is going to be a key to all this. If we can get him working, what are we going to do? And then it's just this last ditch effort. And at this point, Chihiro is like, no, Akashi's showing off with the alley-oop. Again, you know what? I was shipping Nijimura with Akashi. I'm shipping Chihiro with Akashi now because they're both such bitches. They deserve each other. Oh, they deserve each other, right? Although I feel kind of bad for Chihiro because Akashi is just using him. At this point, it seems like it. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that maybe Akashi genuinely cares about Chihiro. They had that little moment with the light novel, and I'll be all for shipping it, but it does seem like Chihiro's being used by Akashi just to win, which kind of sucks. But I'm going to ship it anyway because they both are kind of bitches and they deserve each other. And then he's like, I can do anytime if I feel like it. I'm like, shut up. And they doubt Kuroko so much. They're like, they've already wrote Kuroko off of the court. They've wrote him off that there's nothing he can do. And I'm like, that's your first mistake. The first mistake is Kuroko's going to try. So Akashi writing Kuroko off, I feel like that's a big mistake. I feel like Kuroko's going to come back with something. He has to. He's the main character. But the whole idea that they basically, he's like, miracles don't happen. At the end of the second quarter, it's 37-62. So 47-57. Oh, they're down by 25 points. That's so much. That's so much. It's halftime. Ugh. I don't know how they're going to get through this. I don't know how. Ah! they show in the court that they've got the vital signs that they've hit like the knee, they've hit him in the knees, hit him in the groin, hit him in the hands. They've basically like X'd them all out on the court. Like they've hit all the vital spots. Ooh, I don't know how they're going to come back from 25-point gap. Usually 20 points is what you want to avoid, but how are we going to do this? Miracles don't happen. Well, we'll see, right? Oh man, it's rough, y'all. It's very rough. And I don't know how we're going to get around this. So, ugh. I do want to talk about the end cards as well as the end credit scene. The end credit scenes are back. They weren't really in the Takeo arc, but they are here. The end credits are freaking adorable. I love it. I feel like we got the last couple of episodes, so we're going to be really getting into these. I'm really excited about these. But yeah, we check this stuff out here. The first one we have is Kaijo, where they're all at the pool together, right? And Wakamatsu's so mad that Kisei is just leaping into the pool. I feel like Kasamatsu would be the kind of guy that's like, no diving! No diving! You can't jump in! It's only a 5-foot pool! And then Kisei just leaps in. He's like, you're gonna hurt your foot again! Kasamatsu's such a mom. I love it. But I really love that shot of Kisei jumping in. It's done so well. And then look at Midorima and Shitoku on the cart. Like all of them sitting in the cart together. They're all drinking the red bean soda that's Midorima's favorite. Midorima has the crisp white shirt and he looks so at peace there with Takao and the others. He just looks like he's so happy with his team. Miyashi's got his arm up on Midorima. Midorima's not even complaining. That one is so sweet. I freaking love that. That one is so... What's fun is that you have Kisei's, which is allowing him to show off and allow him to be himself and be in the spotlight, which when he was on Generation of Miracles, he wasn't in the spotlight. He was very much like the last man, right? And like the extra. And here he gets to show off. And then you have Midorima, who's with a team that loves and respects him and that are his friends. And that's what he wanted. And it's like, aw. And then you have Almine, who is winning the running marathon because of course he is. He's a freaking Jaguar. The only one who can beat him in track is him. And he like winning there. And then like Momoi has the cheerleader outfit on, which is so cute. Kasamatsu and Imayoshi and all them are like, they're just clapping their hands. Also, Imayoshi does not have his glasses on because it's track and field day. It looks like he has contacts on maybe. That's really cool. And Sakurai and them like leaping and yelling for him. So sweet. I love that so much. And then we have the end cards, which here's the thing. The end cards. The first one is amazing. It's Himuro and Almine, and then you have Kuroko and Kagami. And it's great for a lot of reasons. One, Kagami is like either taking off or putting pickles on the burger, and Almine is mad that he's taking off or putting pickles on the burger, which is great. And then you have like Himuro and Kuroko getting along, which is wonderful. But then you have like Almine like straddling Kuroko. What is this Al-Kuro like shipping going on? What is this? And then you have the three uncrowned kings who are with Rakuzan. We have Hayama with his little cheetah doll. He's like a little cheetah, which is cool. Which is kind of like Almine a little bit. Almine is Jaguar and Hayama's a cheetah. You have Nabuya with the roses. And like the undone tie. Is he a romantic? We don't know. And then we have Mabuchi who baked you a cake. It's filled with poison. But it's a strawberry cake, so with some raspberries down below because it's sweet, but it's a little sour too. I'm like, okay, all right, Mabuchi looking like a king, but okay. I told y'all I didn't understand the Furihata and Akashi ship. This end card changes everything. He's like a little tree. He's like Trikawa. He's like has his little Trikawa thing going on. Furihata does. And Akashi is just sitting there like, the fudge? No! Based on this one end card alone, it's over. I get it now. The ship is there. Where he's just like, he's shaking like a leaf. And Akashi's like, what do we do with this? Is this poetry? What was happening? This one end card launched hundreds of fan fiction. I have no doubt about it. I was like, well, the end cards have been the end all be all shippers of all shippers. So if the end cards show it, it must be true. God, I love that end card so much. That end card of Akashi and Furihata, maybe my favorite, maybe it's in my top 5 favorite end cards because it's just so ridiculous and it actually paints Akashi in a vulnerable light. I need more of this. More of it, please. So, yes. I really liked this episode set, even though it made my skin crawl and made me want to like leap out of my chair and be like, come on, Seiren, do something. You're 25 points behind. How are we going to do this? So I guess next episode set we'll find out. So, but yeah, so I hope y'all enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I felt like it was all over the place, but these episodes, there was a lot going on. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, next week we will be looking at, we only have 2 sets of episodes in the regular season left of Kuroko's basketball, which is absolutely insanity. So next week we'll be looking at episodes 20, 21, and 22 and see what happens. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yes, I'll be back very soon with more of Kuroko's basketball season 3. Bye.